Sunlight flickers across a green field. A woman turns towards us, her white dress billowing in the breeze, a parasol shading her face. It feels timeless, effortless, almost weightless. But what if I told you this serene moment was painted by a man rebelling against tradition while holding on to something he can never keep? Stay with me and you'll see how Claude Monet turned personal heartbreak into a revolution on canvas. Looks simple, doesn't it? A mother, a child, a breezy afternoon. But hidden in the folds of her dress and the rush of the grass is something deeper. An artist rewriting the rules of beauty and carrying a private grief he never expected to face. Monet painted Woman with a Parasol in 1875. At that time, he wasn't the bearded figure you may be familiar with. No, back in 1875, Claude Monet was a dashing 35-year-old artist. The woman in the painting is Monet's wife, Camille, and the child is their son, Jean. Monet wanted to convey an intimate, spontaneous feel, so he set his easel up outdoors and lightly completed the scene in a single afternoon under natural light. Instead of a posed studio portrait, he captured a real moment as it happened. The wind tussling Camille's veil and skirt, the sunlight flickering across her form. When Monet's Woman with a Parasol debuted at the Second Impressionist exhibition in 1876, its freshness and immediacy grabbed attention. Viewers used to polished academic art saw something radically new. Visible textured brushstrokes and vibrant colours that celebrated a fleeting moment rather than freezing a timeless pose. Critics were divided. Some were perplexed by the loose style, but many praised the painting's spontaneity and naturalness, noting how it truly felt like a snapshot of a breezy day. This work helped prove that Monet's break with tradition was not a fluke, it was a breakthrough. Notice the unusual angle. Monet positions us low to the ground, as if we're down in the grass looking up at his wife and child. This gives the painting a spontaneous, candid feel, almost like a photograph taken from a child's point of view. The composition is deliberately unbalanced and dynamic. Camille stands tall in the right half of the canvas, while little Jean occupies the left background, and an expanse of blue sky fills the top. Monet isn't afraid of empty space. The vast sky and cloud patterns amplify the sense of a breezy sunlit day. The effect is that we feel present in this scene, with the wind at our feet and the sun on our face, rather than viewing a stage tableau. Monet's brushwork and colour bring this moment to life in a then unorthodox way. If you look closely at Camille's face and dress, you will see dabs and streaks of paint instead of fine blended details. Her form is rendered with loose, energetic strokes that capture the motion of her turning to glance at Monet, who is effectively outstanding as the viewer. The grass in the foreground is a flurry of green and yellow strokes, and the sky is full of textured swirls of blue and white. This was a bold departure from the smooth, invisible brushwork taught by the art academies. In fact, Monet's thick, tactile paint application was shocking in the 1870s. It gives the canvas a 3D, touchable quality, making the light and air almost palatable. Even the use of colour defied expectations. Instead of mixing black or grey for shadows, he famously used deep blues and violet to depict shade. Look at the shadows on Camille's white dress and under the parasol. They're tinted with blue and lavender and other colours, reflecting the sky's colour. This choice made the scene more radiant and true to nature as Monet saw it. At the time, critics thought these vivid shallow colours were unrealistic, but Monet and the Impressionists argue that in real outdoor light, shadows are full of colour. By breaking the rules of colour and lighting, Monet infused a painting with the vibrancy of a fleeting sunny moment, as if the atmosphere itself is alive on the canvas. To appreciate how radical this was, consider the art world Monet was up against. In the 1870s, the official French art scene was dominated by the Salon, juried exhibitions of paintings that adhered to classical standards. These works tended to be large, polished, and often historical or mythological scenes painted in studios under controlled light. Portraits were formal, with subjects posed stiffly and rendered in meticulous detail. Monet and his fellow Impressionists decided to rebel against these conventions. They took their easels outside into the real world to capture the effects of natural light and movement. The very idea of portraying an everyday contemporary scene, not a goddess or a hero, but a wife and child out for a stroll, was a subversive choice. By 1875, Monet had fully committed to his new approach. In fact, the term Impressionism itself came from a critic's snide remark that Monet's earlier painting looked like merely an impression of a scene rather than a finished work. Monet embraced the term and proved that through paintings like A Woman with a Parasol, that capturing an impression of a moment could be more powerful than the most elaborate academic compositions. It's important to note that this painting is also a deeply personal work for Monet. The woman in the scene, Camille Monet, is not just a model or an anonymous figure. She was Monet's beloved first wife and frequent muse. We can see her here in this early work by Monet, which was his only work to receive acclaim at the Salon. Camille had been by Monet's side since his early struggling years. She appeared in many of his paintings, from dressed-up portraits in fashionable Parisian attire to domestic scenes. By portraying Camille and their son enjoying a pleasant day, Monet was celebrating the simple joys of his own life. There's a tenderness to how he paints her. Her face is mostly in shadows under the parasol, features gently suggested with a few strokes. Yet, we sense her warmth and grace as she gazes towards her husband. Jean, their son, is shown at a distance, a playful small figure peeking out from behind a hill, giving the composition a feeling of family intimacy observed from life. Also, on a personal note, encountering this painting can be a surprisingly moving experience. You might find that you feel this scene as much as you see it. And if you'd like to own this wonderful masterpiece, you can. We have this and hundreds of others in our store, artloveart.com. Every piece you collect helps us continue to make intriguing videos like this one. And for that, we're eternally grateful. Thank you. As viewers, the extra context we now know adds a layer of meaning to this painting. We realise Monet isn't just painting a woman and child, he's painting his wife and son, savouring a moment of contentment. And here's where a poignant twist comes in. This blissful moment was as fleeting as the clouds overhead. In reality, Camille Monet's health was fragile. She would pass away a few years later, in 1879, at the young age of 32. Monet's world would be shattered by that loss. When you keep that in mind, the painting takes on a new emotional depth. Monet unknowingly captured a precious afternoon that would never come again. This gentle scene on a hilltop, then, isn't only about light and colour. It's about cherishing a moment with loved ones, aware, at least subconsciously, that life is ever-changing. In a sense, Woman with a Parasol is Monet's triumphal answer to that critic's jab about impressions. He's saying, yes, actually, art should capture an impression, the honest truth of a fleeting experience. In this canvas, Monet bottled a snippet of life in motion. The real subject is light and atmosphere, love and loss. The blurred face, the sketchy outlines are intentional. Monet isn't aiming for a detailed likeness here, but rather the feeling of seeing a person suddenly turn towards you in bright sunlight. It's as if we could feel the startle of that moment, her skirt rustling, the parasol shifting, and we instinctively narrow our eyes a bit from the glare of the sky behind her. So, what do you think Monet was trying to show us with Woman with a Parasol? Why does this particular painting stand out as a landmark in art history? And what does it reveal about how art can reflect our experience of the world? Let's discuss it in the comments. And if you enjoyed learning about Claude Monet's Woman with a Parasol, then you'll love our other Art Love Art stories. Come and join us in this other video. I think you'll love it. We'll see you over there.